Has anyone ever given a nice guy a chance after they've thrown a tantrum because you didn't let them treat you like a queen? And if you did, how did it work out? My sister did. She is a hairstylist, and one of her clients was very aggressive about asking her out. He repeatedly bought flowers, concert tickets, and other gifts which he brought to her at work, and she said no each time because he seemed a little off. He got in a car accident and was really badly injured, and she felt sorry for him, so she went out with him finally. They dated a few months before breaking up. I don't know the exact reason why, but after that he started stalking her. It's been over 5 years since then, and he is still keeping tabs on her. She's reported him to the police multiple times, has a restraining order, and has blocked him on FB/everywhere else, but every few months he finds a way to contact her. So if you get weird vibes from someone, don't give them a chance, or you might end up with a lifelong stalker like my sister has. Yes, the tantrums continued throughout the relationship. He was very controlling. If I was out with friends, he would be upset that I was having fun without him. He ended up cheating on me and dumping me only to beg me back. He semi-staked me for a couple of years, had an online blog about what I did each day, and tried to befriend my exes. It was my first experience on a Cupid. The guy seemed okay on paper. We swapped non-nude pictures so none of us would be surprised with the way we looked. We talked on Skype for 2 weeks, because at the time I was in campus town and scrolling a Cupid for my hometown. I told him I would be back home after finals, and that it would take 2 to 3 weeks before we could meet in person. It was good to talk to someone who wasn't outright trying to sexualize/fetishize me. I don't remember the converse, but I thought it was good enough to meet him in person. Anyway, so we meet. I got dressed up, and he was in t-shirt and cargo pants. I bought us both a latte. It was a coffee date. We sat down, and he talked mostly about himself and his job. At some point, he stood up, walked behind me, and started giving me a shoulder rub while I was seated. I never asked for a massage, and why would I accept one in public? I got bored, so I pretexted a family supper to leave, and he was like, "Oh, too bad. I could have had brought you home." And I thought I told him already it wasn't going to happen so soon. I decided to let him know on Skype that there wasn't any spark, and that I wished him good luck on a Cupid. And he exploded at me. How all women are the same. We want nice gentle guy, but won't give them a chance. How sparks are made up by rom-com to trick women, and in real life it doesn't happen instantly. How I led him on because we talked for weeks and now I just decide not to push it further. How he is done with women. And so on. Then he blocked me. I dated a guy in high school. Relationship was okay, but it was long distance, so we amicably ended it. He was the one that brought it up and I agreed. Fast forward 6 months and he randomly messages me. Everything is friendly until I mention that I have a new boyfriend. The conversation did a quick 180 from "Hi, how are you" to "You'll never find someone like me, and how could I start dating again so soon." I blocked his ass real fast. And he was right. I never did find another guy like him, because I married the new boyfriend, and we are still together 18 years later. I was once in a similar situation. I dated a sweet guy. But honestly, sweet is subjective. He was a gentleman, but he insisted on always opening the car door for me. He literally would not let me touch the car handle, like at all, letting me eat first always, instead of both at the same time. Cause honestly it's not a biggie for me. Commented that I should never cut my hair, etc. I felt like I was with a man from the 50s. It was draining to be treated like a queen instead of an equal. Other than that, he was okay. Anyways, when I broke up with him, I felt like he didn't want to let me go. Like I had to explain over and over again that I wasn't feeling it and that he deserved someone that would feel the same way about him. He hung up the phone with, "You don't know what you missed out on. MMMM. Okay, I guess. I didn't, but my friend did. See, me and this guy had a mutual friend. This guy saw himself as a white knight and would use that term to describe himself. He had a code of honor, and he was always somebody who'd walk the girl home, lend out his jacket, that sort of thing. Well, mutual friend was asked out by this guy, and he threw a fit when she turned him down. So, she gave him a chance. At first, she was happy. He pulled out chairs, lent her his jacket, brought her gifts, that kind of thing. But it became apparent that he was incredibly possessive and things were always on his terms. So, they broke up. About 6 months after this guy was dumped, he decided he liked me. Telling him I wasn't interested didn't work the first or second time, so the third time I decided to just come out and tell him I was asexual. I hadn't done so before because I wasn't sure how he'd take it. He decided that I was lucky he was such a nice guy, because if he wasn't then he'd have taken that as a challenge. I haven't hung out with this guy since then. Just, no. Way too many times in college. I had guys in the friend zone who I decided to give a chance because I was stupid and I felt sorry for them. Our last straw was when a guy took me shopping. I said yes in lonely desperate on a Friday night. This was a Saturday afternoon. After every store I went into he would either criticize me for not wanting him to buy me anything, I'm not much of a shopper anyways, or ask me for $6 because he bought me a used video game I wanted. Never again. There's a good reason incels are incels. Met a guy online and he seemed really nice. He was a tad pushy about meeting up, but I ignored that little feeling. We met up shortly after for a quick date. I think we got coffee and chatted. It was instant chemistry. He had 2 sons and I have 2 kids, both open to blended families, goal-oriented, smart, easy conversation. We decided to go out again the next night. Really nice date, and he was a complete gentleman. He mentioned on the date we'd have to get the kids together to see if they like each other. I laughed it off, like yeah maybe down the road. We just met and continued the date. 2 days later, during our texting I casually mentioned I was going to take my kids on a nature walk, and I'd text him when I was back. He shows up with his kids. Now, I don't have it in me to be mean to children, so I played nice and introduced myself. They were around 5 and 7, and very sweet boys, but inside I was creeped the fuck out. After we parted ways I called him and told him that was not cool at all. Of course, he played victim and hurt until I said I was uncomfortable with what he did. Then it was I'm just trying to love you and your kids. How can we be together if they don't meet? And you should appreciate a man trying with a woman with 2 kids. As if he didn't have to his damn self. He sent angry messages for about a week. I never would respond, and he went away. To clarify, this all happened in a 2-week span. From start to finish. I finally allowed him to take me on a date to breakfast. Figured midday would be ideal to meet up in public. I offended him immediately when I spoke to the waitress. I said, "We have 2" when she asked how many we had. He insisted that she was asking him, not me, and I emasculated him in public. I laughed it off as a joke. I grew up with all brothers. Surely, he was trying to be funny. We sat down. The waitress asked for our order. I gave her mine. He groaned and asked her to come back in a second. He told me proper protocol was for me to discuss what I wanted to eat with him, allow him to make the decision, and he was supposed to relay that to the waitress, not me. I told him he was crazy and left. Blocked his number. Ghosted completely. This nice guy I dated from Tinder was so annoying that I finally gave him a chance. We ended up dating for a year. He was really sensitive and sweet, unlike others I've met from Tinder. But what actually ended up happening were the following things. He would cry every single day that I didn't love him, and threw a fit crying when I didn't approve of an Instagram post he made about us. I looked horrible, and it's my right to not want a picture of me online. Would tell me repeatedly that I wasn't as attractive as my roommates, his friends, girls he went to college with, my own relatives, etc. Tried to have a threesome with my roommate that I didn't even ask for and didn't want to be involved in. Would cry when the dildo he used on me did a better job than him. Would throw a fit when my father asked him to go buy me a bagel down the street in a city we were in, and he was on the verge of crying because he was afraid he would get mugged. When I told him I was probably gonna be the breadwinner and wore the pants in the relationship, he tried to get back at me by asserting his masculinity and racing me on the highway and did BDSM. Refused to wear condoms, and when I had a pregnancy scare, he lied to me saying he didn't ejaculate inside me, but later I found out he actually did, and he knew about it. But then cried and threw a fit when I said I was sure I was pregnant. Would cry about how much he loves his mom every day, but threw things at her when they fought. Would cry because he had a nightmare that minorities were hurting me. There's so much more, but those are just some highlights. Even in the comments, most of these guys turn out to be super manipulative. My sister had a nice guy friend in HS. At first he was a great guy, but as he got more impatient with her deciding whether or not to date him, he became very manipulative. So since we are just friends, I guess it was okay for me to go to VS with my ex and watch her try on lingerie. Even though we broke up, my opinion still matters to her because I'm such a good guy. My innocent and self-conscious sister who didn't want to sound like a control freak. No, I guess that's cool. 1 week later they are dating. Mean comments all throughout the relationship. BTW, my friends think you're stupid, but I defended you. BTW, my brother thinks you're a bitch, but I defended you. Now my brother and I aren't talking. You matter more. On the phone, sister talking about her day. Boyfriend barely paying attention. Wow. Cool. Okay. Wait, what? Sorry, playing video games. Sister sincerely, oh well, if you're busy I can call you back later. Blow up. Are you serious? You really think I'd rather play games than talk to you? That's what you think of me. Are you really that shallow? Fuck you. Click. After that I told her to dump him, but he called back crying and apologizing, so she gave him another chance. Eventually she broke up with him, and the next day he skipped school and had his friends tell her that he slit his wrists last night and was in ICU because of her. She called me flipping out saying I needed to take her to the hospital to see him. I showed up at the school with a peach Bellini to calm her down. Low alcohol. She was only a junior after all. What are older sisters for? She was all okay, so which hospital is he at? I explained that he wasn't in ICU. He was home playing video games. She didn't believe me. He had already blocked her on FB, but I was still his friend, so I showed her all his posts front that day taking some me time, guys. I finally beat Final Fantasy. Home alone. S'mores for lunch? Yeah, she never talked to him again. I'll clarify. I'm married. I've been married for 20 years. I get a whole slew of messages on social media from time to time from random people wanting to talk to me. Normally I'm pretty cordial. I'm very upfront about being married. Even then I don't mind a random chit-chat. Once I let them know that I'm married, that's when I'm called a whore or a slut. I also get this same sentence, you really missed out. I would've treated you like a queen. So my question is, to anyone who know, if you had dated a guy who acted like this, how did it turn out? I was the nice guy who got turned down for a second date. I said the same bullshit that any nice guy says when that happens, i.e., all women are the same, say they want nice guys, only date assholes, etc. She said well, fine, let's have that second date, but doesn't it make you feel weird to have to convince someone to date you? Don't you want someone who wants to be with you? Me. Changed absolutely everything about dating for me. A girlfriend told me that when she was still new to dating, she gave a nice guy a shot. They were in different states, and after weeks of owing him a sexy picture or video she agreed to FaceTime him with a wink agreement that things might get steamy. The day comes and this 300 pounds unwashed dude called her 190 pounds, 5 feet 6, nice, but bigger than he liked, and suggested she start working out. He then pushed for an in-person visit near him so that he could show her the wonders of carnal things. She ghosted him shortly after that. I dated one for 2 years. He seemed nice and was happy when I first started dating him cause girls didn't give him a chance due to his looks. He was super nerdy. I was 16 and he was 19. He was very needy and always demanded we do what he wanted. I missed out on a lot of things, including missing out going to see Phantom of the Opera with his mom because he didn't want to go and would get sick at the last minute. When I lost my virginity to him, he said I basically raped him because he didn't realize he wasn't ready for something like that till after we had sex. About a year and a half into our relationship he got religious. So then, whenever we had sex, he would want is to pray for forgiveness afterwards. But if I refused sex, I was a cold bitch. I actually left him for a female partner, I'm bi, and that's when I realized that it was a super unhealthy relationship. He didn't throw a tantrum, but other people convince me that I need to start giving the nice guys a chance. I didn't really find him attractive, but he was really nice to me, so I was just like okay fine. And then on to 2 years of a toxic abuse relationship, where he was always right, always belittling me, always reminding me that anytime I felt uncomfortable with something or upset about something, it wasn't because he was doing something wrong, it was because I had an abusive childhood and I just didn't understand what real relationships were like. I went to bed crying every night. I remember he never wanted to have sex except the only times he wanted to have sex was after he broke me down and I cried myself to sleep. Then he'd come to bed saying, "I just love you so much. You're so amazing. The best." I felt so unloved and desperate for affection. I'd have sex with him, but feel so empty and alone afterwards. It wasn't until I was free of that relationship I realized how fucked up it was. I'm still trying to forgive myself for allowing myself to be in that situation for so long. I'm so happy I escaped. I dated a nice guy for 3 years. First he did treat me like a queen, put me up on a pedestal, flattered me, bought me things. He made me feel really good about myself and more confident. Then, it changed because my confidence was a threat. The name calling started, fights over nothing, insane jealousy. He wore me down until I felt like nothing. I hadn't done anything sexual or even dated prior to meeting him. He threw a tantrum until I did all the things he wanted, even if I was crying or saying no. He consistently expressed how he wished it was acceptable to hit me and let his mother berate and slap me. It got to the point where he'd pick me up at 7 AM. I couldn't drive at the time, drop me off at his house, take my cell phone and leave me there until he got out of work. After making me quit my job and trying to get me to quit school, I realized I didn't want this to be my life every day. I was isolated from my friends and family, depressed, and expected to take care of his needs without anything in return. I finally got the confidence to break it off. Turns out he was cheating on me too. He threatened to kill me and any guy he saw me with, harassed and stalked me for years. He told everyone I was a whore, and I left him because of his weight and how he was such a nice guy to me. Fuck you, Jerry.